Welcome back, Sparklers, to another episode of Ignite Your Spark with me, your host, Kim Duff Selby. Today on the podcast, we're going to ignite your spark with Brandi Van, and she is a medium, a psychic. And yes, I know I interview a lot of mediums and psychics because I love them. I think they all have something that they can share with us that's going to open up our own intuitive abilities. And as the world marches forward, I think it's really, really important that all these people are coming to me to be on my podcast because you all need to open your intuition. I just know it. And Brandi's going to help us. She's a lovely, lovely woman. And I will tell you her background. She has a BA in communications and journalism, and she spent 10 plus years in medical sales. It's interesting how people come into the realm of the psychic or medium abilities. And we'll go in and find out how Brandi got into that as well. And she has also studied, as many of my guests have, at the Arthur Findlay College of Spiritualism and Psychic Sciences. And that's a place I would love to study. I would love to go there to study. Well, let's get into it. Welcome, Brandi. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm thrilled you're here. You probably know what I'm going to ask, but I'm going to ask you, how do you ignite your spark?
I ignite my spark by helping others. So not only am I a medium, I'm also a mentor for other people who want to become psychic and mediums because I was so lost on my journey that I now want to be that person to help other people so that they're not lost.
Yeah, that makes sense. It really does give everyone should know this, great joy when you are helping someone else and they truly integrate what you are assisting them with. It's when I had kids, I really got great joy in helping them achieve a goal and helping them believe in themselves. And I would imagine as a spiritual and psychic mentor, you are helping people, us, believe in ourselves.
Yes, absolutely. Because that's what people will say. They're always like, I know I have something inside of me. I just don't know how to bring it out. They're seeing things, they're hearing things, but, they're kind of dropping the ball because they don't know who the message is for from spirit or what the message means. And then they almost have like a guilt toward it because they know they have this gift, but then they don't know how to share it with the world. So that's really where I come in to help them.
Well, that is wonderful. And people are often afraid that they will be judged. I think more and more people are coming out of the spiritual closet and are willing to, let's say, let that side of them be known. But I think a lot of it has to do with, for many years, it was, oh, you're weird. Oh, do you carry a crystal ball around? And you are much younger than I am, but I was in the spiritual closet for many years, for decades and decades and decades, because it's not something you spoke about with everybody. And you had to sort of feel out who was going to be willing to accept you for the real you.
Exactly. You have to find that support group and know like, who can I be around that's like-minded or who is my community. And I really feel like with my mentorship program that I now bring them all together. So even though I might work with someone one-on-one, I also offer a group program where they're all in the same private Facebook group. So they now have a community that they feel safe talking about. And then I also do local workshops, and that's a great space as well because they're coming to the workshop to develop their abilities. And so now they also are meeting people there that they can talk about this with because it is still unfortunately a little bit taboo or woo woo that people will still see it that way. And a lot of times it's their families too, that don't have that, that they're not like approving of it. So yeah, it's really important to have that support group.
Yeah, I think community is really big. Community, especially now, is really important after coming off of a few years of being totally isolated. Now everybody's coming back in full force. And some people may be searching for a new community. Perhaps they changed during the time at home, and perhaps they did a lot of self-development and read books on spirituality and psychic development, and they're looking for a community of people.
Yes, absolutely. And that's what it is. Like you can read all the books or, listen to podcasts or, read things, but it's like it's not ever going to help with the abilities until you actually experience it. So it really needs to be something that you're experiencing versus just reading about.
Yeah, and I want people to continue to listen to podcasts, mine in
Yes, of
particular.
course.
But take what you've learned and do a little more research. I try to introduce people to my listeners, and someone's going to resonate with you, someone will resonate with someone else, whomever, just to really, the goal is for me to assist others on their journey in life, not to be promoting one person over another, but to really help everybody open up to their own psychic slash intuitive abilities. And that brings me to, how did you discover yours? And when did you start realizing you had something that was not quote unquote normal?
Sure. So, I mean, I knew I had this ability at a very young age. I was like 10 or 12 whenever I first started noticing it. But I was playing with the Ouija board and, I didn't know what I was doing. And I didn't really tell anyone. I mean, my mom knew I was playing with it, but not to the extent that I was. And then I was walking with my friends in the woods. We're going to get some pizza at like 10 o'clock at night. And we heard a growling. And at that time, I thought maybe it was an animal or then your mind even thinks maybe there's a human, but like, why would a human be in the middle of the woods, maybe waiting for these kids to go get pizza to scare us? So I remember it pushed me into the brush and it had like a half black, half white face. My two friends ran off. They didn't help me. Luckily, I was able to get back to my parents' house and I had called the cops. So I had the cops go back there and they couldn't find anything. And at that time, I'm thinking, if it was an animal, it would have kept running past, coming running toward me, and it didn't look like an animal. And why would a person be back there? And then it was years later that I realized, like, no, this was a negative spirit that I had probably entered into my life by not knowing what I was doing with the Ouija board, not knowing my abilities. So of course, then I quit the Ouija board, and fast forward a few years, my family was all around my grandma when she took her last breath. We were in her hospice. It was very emotional. Everyone was crying and they were all looking down at the bed. But my intuition was telling me, look above the bed. So I actually felt her spirit lift above the bed. And the only way I can describe it was like a kaleidoscope of bright, brilliant colors that were making a star. And I could feel her angels. I could feel her at peace. And I had to leave the room because I'm not religious, but it was the most powerful spiritual experience I've ever experienced. And it took me years to tell anyone about it because I didn't think they would, maybe they thought I was crazy or I was just seeing things. But in that moment, I decided to start my spiritual journey. I clearly had something. I was feeling things, seeing things, and I knew my grandma wanted me to know I was at peace. And in that, it also changed my fear of death because I knew she was at peace. I knew she was on to this next journey. So it just completely changed my life. And so from then on, I started my spiritual journey and I want to share it with others because it's awesome. And so I want other people to know that they might have this as well and they might be able to, develop this ability that they have.
Do you think everybody has the ability?
I do. I believe everyone has it. And I always describe it like playing an instrument. So if you can get your hands on the piano and give it a shot, you might need to practice more than another person, but it's the same thing. You're just building and practicing that psychic muscle. So I feel like anyone can actually develop it.
Would you say there's a difference between utilizing your intuition and utilizing your psychic muscle, or are they connected?
They are connected. So, of course, you want to use your intuition, but there's also so much more to learn whenever you're developing your abilities because you want to learn about balancing your chakras. You want to learn about a lot of it is developing your clairsenses, which is, like your physical senses on steroids, is how I describe them. But you're using your intuition to develop those clairsenses. So, it's very much intertwined, but then there's also a lot more that you need to learn as well.
Yeah, of course, of course. I just sort of curious about that. One of the things that you sort of talk about a little bit is how to release your ego in order to receive psychic messages. And I want to talk about that. And maybe you can give us an idea of how we could start. If someone just says, well, okay, this is intriguing. How do I start to develop my psychic abilities?
Sure. So releasing your ego is such a big thing because when you start your abilities, you have the right side of your brain that is very creative. It's your where your intuition is held, and it wants you to get into these abilities. But then on the other side of your brain, the left side, is where your rational mind is, your logical mind, and your ego rests there. And not the ego in terms of like, oh, I'm an amazing person, but your
Yeah.
ego in terms of no, like we don't know if that's safe and we want to keep you safe and we don't want to go somewhere uncomfortable. So you really have to balance out the right and the left side of the brain because that left side doesn't want you to go somewhere that they haven't gone before. So a great way to calm that is whenever you're hearing your logical minds come in and say like, you'll never be able to do this, this isn't real, is to just not don't listen, don't not listen to it. You want to still listen to it. It's still going to help you. But you just kind of like as though a friend is giving you bad advice and you just kind of want to say, I hear what you're saying, but today I'm not going to take your advice and I'm going to, do my abilities. I'm going to listen to my intuition. So that's an easy way to just quiet the ego in terms of it getting in the way.
That's a great suggestion. I also think that what came to me is that when you get that message, you're not good enough, you're nuts, maybe write that down, exit out, start a new pattern in your brain, in your mind to move past that. Sometimes it helps me to write something down and see it and go, okay, you're right, that is ridiculous. Because sometimes if we really acknowledge it, we're like, oh, right, ego, you're being crazy. You're being
Yeah.
nuts, nuts, nuts.
And also, whenever I always tell my clients when they hear their inner critic getting louder, to bring that on as their best friend. So if your inner critic's getting louder, that means you're closer to your goal. So instead of being fearful of it and letting it doubt you, to actually bring it on as your best friend and be like, okay, now I know I'm getting close.
Yeah, good, good. And what are some of the myths that could be holding people back from developing their psychic abilities?
Sure. So the biggest myth is, of course, the fear of it. So, in our society, we have movies like Poltergeist and Exorcist. So you think that
Yeah.
you might get possessed or something is bad going to happen. But if you know how to do your abilities, if you know how to put up a boundary of only highest good and highest realm spirits can enter your space, then really nothing can come into your space because you hold more power than spirit does. So you can tell them to go away or treat them like a bully that's treating you bad and just stand up for yourself so that they don't enter your space. So that's one big thing. Also, fear is, something that's unknown. So if you're going into this realm and it is unknown, you can decide what's fearful or not. So it's your own free will, it's your own mind that might be telling you something is fearful because it might be like, a black apparition appears to you. And so automatically, black or gray in our society thinks something's scary. But it could actually be like your grandma who has passed, or it might be your guardian angel, but your mind is telling you it's something scary. So unless you ask questions to this spirit, why are you here? What can I help you with? Almost treat it like a child. How can I help you? Then you really can see it. Is it something scary or is it just my own mind telling me it's scary?
If you are asking questions of this, you're going to think you're nuts, but when you get an answer, but I happen to know that it isn't just your imagination. You do, however, from what I understand, need to slow down and not just like be in a tizzy or in a whirlwind or vortex when you are asking these questions. You need to be in a calm state.
Yes, absolutely. You need to be in a meditative state or, just be in that mind body unison state where, you're able to get these messages. But sometimes a spirit will come to you and you're not in that state. So that's also what I teach them is how to put that boundary up so that you're controlling when spirit comes to you versus, they're going to control whenever they come to you.
Right, right. Right. You want to be in control. Now, what would you say you mentioned it a little bit, how to protect yourself from errant spirits, say, or because once you start opening yourself up, then sort of negative people or spirits could come in. What is it that you actually physically do to protect yourself? Is it something you do every day or before you are going into a meditative state, or share how that works?
I protect myself a lot. So if I'm going to even, because I'm also an empath, so even humans' energy can attach onto me. So before I leave the house, before I'm around other people, or of course, whenever I'm going into that spirit realm or that meditative state, I'm going to protect myself. And the way I protect myself is I set an intention that only spirits of the highest realm and the highest good can enter my space. Then I don't forget, I'm sorry. Then I imagine or envision that a white light is all around me, and I'm grabbing that white light from the sky, from the cosmos. And not only is it around my aura, it's also inside of me. So I'm breathing it into my lungs and my heart, and into my blood. And then when I exhale, I'm exhaling anything negative, anything dark, anything dense. And I do that a few times a day to really protect myself. And then also I want to ground myself so that, I'm also grounded and I'm also here in the moment. So grounding and the white light, and then also setting that boundary and letting spirit know, almost like as if you had a brick and mortar, office. Like my open sign is up now, but my closed sign is up now too, so that spirit knows. And you might want to set that intention every day because it could change every day. Maybe today I'm not feeling well, or maybe today I'm just taking a break, I'm on vacation. So yeah, it's really important to set it daily, in case a new spirit comes in that maybe doesn't know your intention or your boundary yet.
And I think if there are any listeners who think we're crazy, some people might stumble upon this. Protecting yourself energetically is a good idea regardless of your beliefs, because there's a lot of negative energy out in the world, and there has been for many years now. And even if you aren't a full empath, I consider myself an empath as well, but you're just a sensitive person, you can pick up from crowds. It's like, to my mind, as if you're an introvert. Introverts tend to be more sensitive and attract that. So that perhaps is why they don't like going into large crowds, because all that energy, negative energy, kind of attaches itself. So I feel like it's such a great thing to do for anyone before you leave your house, which hopefully is a protected, safe space, to protect yourself, your energetic body. It's as if you wouldn't go roller skating or skateboarding without a helmet, without knee pads or wrist pads. If you're a beginner, especially, you want to protect yourself, you want to protect your soul. And I think that's really good advice for anyone. Before you leave the house, put yourself in a bubble of white light. Even if you don't believe it, try
Hmm.
it, see what
Yeah,
happens.
it can't hurt, that's for sure.
Right, right,
And
right.
then vice versa. Let's say you go out and you are an empath and you forget to put your white light up. And so you come home and now you feel these negative emotions and you might think there's some energy on you. The easy thing is to just take a shower. I mean, you're bringing in the elements, you're taking a shower, and you're washing away all of that energy. So that's just a very easy way. And it's not something you have to, do in your mind. It's a physical way of releasing that energy.
That's interesting because, sometimes people, I've heard them say, or I'll feel it, like you've been on a long trip. Say you took a shower in the morning, but you were on an airplane for many hours. You come home, you're like, I just need to shower that off. I mean,
Hmm.
there's something speaking to you there. Yeah, you need to shower off all of the energies that possibly got attached to you during
Absolutely.
your travels. I never really thought of it that way. I knew that, like, taking an Epsom salt bath is really excellent for releasing any negativity and just good for your body in general, but especially those working on developing their psychic abilities to release and wash away that which no longer serves them.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's an easy thing to do. Just take a shower.
Yeah, exactly. You don't even have, but it's interesting. I hope people are thinking back perhaps on times when they went, oh, yeah, I really felt like I just needed to take a shower, because that's our intuition. That's our psychic ability talking to us, even if we don't recognize that. That's
Yes,
what it
exactly.
is.
Yep.
Do you have a daily practice that you use to I guess, get your psychic abilities ready for the day?
I do, and it's a long process. I'm not going to tell you all about it because it's like 15 or 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I ground myself, I put the protections on, I do meditation, and so much more. But yes, there's absolutely, and same thing, like I was giving that piano example, because if you're developing your abilities and you work on it today for 5 hours, and then you wait a month, and then you work on it for another 5 hours, you want to just have it a daily practice so that you don't have to like restart or back up. So it's definitely something that you want to add to your everyday life, even if it's 5 minutes, just so that it's
Yeah.
still in your everyday.
I ask a lot of people this because I'm always interested in how people meditate, because there's so many different ways to meditate. And you said that meditation is a part of your morning routine. And I think that it's part of mine, but I don't think it really is, because I end up sitting in silence for 15, 20 minutes, sometimes longer, but my mind is still working, or I'm giving thanks. I really sit there and am grateful. Do you absolutely, can you still yourself completely so that your thoughts are gone?
I
Just,
can. I can, but when I'm in that meditative state, that's when spirit usually talks to me.
yeah.
So I am completely quiet, but I'm clairaudient, meaning I hear spirit in my mind, but it's my voice and it's not my thought. So that's how I know I'm connected with spirit. So it is hard for me to, even though my mind is shut off, I'm still getting messages that are coming into my mind. But for developing your abilities, whenever I say meditation, a lot of it is visualization. So you're actually visualizing things in your mind, just like I was saying, the white light protection. Or if you were to be clairvoyant, you're imagining or visualizing these things going on in your mind. So a lot of my meditations, even my daily ones, are visualizations, not just. So my thoughts are off, but I'm making myself see things in my mind. If that makes sense.
How would you assist someone in figuring out what their strongest clair would be? I've talked about the different clairs from the past in other episodes, but again, there's always new people coming. Clairsentience, clairaudience, clair, what are the other clairs?
Clairvoyance, cognizant, clairsentient. Yeah, there's several of them. Um, so the best way that I would say, are there like there's little short exercises you can try. So clairaudient, like right before you go to bed at night, and let's say there you can hear your heart beating, you can hear some cars outside, and you can hear a clock on the wall. You want to be able to quiet two of those and really focus on one, and then see if you're able to turn the volume up and down. And if you're able to quiet it and then turn one up and down with the volume, then you can know you're clairaudient because you have that ability to control it. As clairvoyant, those are like the two top ones, I would say. The other one is clairvoyant. And if you're able to, for example, see a balloon in your vision, in your mind's eye, when your eyes are closed, and if you're able to see a color for that balloon and the shape of a balloon, and then if you're able to release it to go up out of your vision, then you know you're clairvoyant. But it's just like, I'm just saying this like as really quick exercise to do, but it takes a lot more than
Oh,
that
yeah.
to do
No,
it.
but I think that's really
But yeah,
good. That's good information to help someone just sort of play around with it, because they can
sure.
always delve deeper. They can go to your website, they can, do research on the clairs. That was interesting about the clairvoyant, because I can do that in a second. I can visualize that balloon and go up, but in terms of my own clairvoyance, I don't see dead people, as
Okay.
it were. But what would that mean? I mean, I have I can do the audient too, and I'm sentient. I know I have all those three abilities, as I'm sure many people do. If they just do those exercise, I think that's really brilliant that you gave us those short ones, because just in that amount of time, someone can figure out, oh, well, I'm not that, but I am that. Let me do more research on that.
Hmm. Hmm.
If you are clairvoyant, explain exactly, not exactly. I mean, I know everybody has, but what that would mean.
Sure. So if you're clairvoyant, you are able to, in your mind, see visions, symbols, or images. And the point of the exercise to control that balloon and to bring it up out of your mental vision is so that you know when you're creating something. because then when spirit comes in and you're like, wait a minute, I didn't just create this image, I didn't create this symbol, then you know, boom, I just got a message from spirit. So that's where it ties in. Now, you had mentioned about the dead people, and just because you're clairvoyant doesn't mean you can see dead people. That would be that you're a medium. So that's where the difference comes in. So everyone is psychic. Everyone who's a medium is psychic, but not everyone who's a psychic is a medium.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And not all mediums are channels either. A channeler
Yes.
is something completely different where a
Yep.
spirit speaks through you, you go into a trance. And people have probably seen that in movies as well.
Yeah.
It's a bad rap. And I know that a lot of people don't do that. I mean, that was my first experience with a medium, was a channel when I was quite
Mm.
young. And it's very taxing on the human body when another spirit goes into your body. So not many people do that.
Yeah. Yeah. It totally depletes your energy. So that's something I don't do. I definitely have that boundary up. You're not allowed to touch me. You're not allowed to enter me. Yeah. So that's yeah.
Stay away, sister.
Yes.
Stay away. Is there anything else you think that the listeners would benefit from knowing about perhaps how you work with people?
Sure. So I work with people in two different ways. So I have a one-on-one program if they really want to dive into it. And then I also have a group mentorship program. So if they want to be around like-minded people and a community, we're all going to learn the same thing. It's just if you want that one-on-one along with the group, or if you just feel comfortable with the group. But we meet every other week for 90 days. And I really go through, it's basically you're reading homework and then you're doing an exercise to try it. Then you're reading more homework and then you're doing an exercise. Because without the exercises, you'll never build that psychic muscle. And you're not doing the exercises once or twice. You're doing them until you're able to connect with spirit, until you can feel or see a significant change going on. And they have the exercises for the rest of their lives. So it doesn't mean in those 90 days that you have to rush through it. You know, the journey is different for everyone. We're all on different parts of the journey. And so they still have access to all those exercises for as long as it takes until they're able to connect with spirit.
I think that that is something that would be valuable for so many people who don't really realize that they need this. You know, I'm looking at it going, I've been studying this stuff for decades, and yet I'm going, oh, that sounds kind of fun because you're around like-minded people. And I imagine you get to form connections with these people. You could practice with the people. I think that's a really important part of learning any new skill is, of course, practice and community. Those are the two that are really vital. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much. What is your website? Where can people find you?
Sure. So it's brandyvan.com. Very easy website to remember. And you'll see about I do mediumship readings as well, and you'll see my program on there. And the next step would just be to book a call, and we would see if they're a good fit for the program.
Great. Wonderful. Brandi, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate the information, and I learn something new every time I speak with someone. So thanks for sharing your gifts with us.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate, and I love what you're doing here with your podcast. It's amazing.
Thank you. And sparklers, thanks for listening in. I really hope that you go out, and I really think this is important. Develop your intuition and psychic gifts because I really think it's going to make you feel better about yourself, about life. There's just so much you can accomplish. There's more than just meets the eye, as they say. So ignite your sparks, people, and shine on.